Dr. Jazz.
But thanks for finding the time. Appreciate it.
Jazz.
Thank you for having me, Samo.
You know, I've talked to so many guys you've played with regularly, and have you on so many albums. So I was like, okay, I'll drop the line. So let's see.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh, I wanted to start this talk by asking you one question. I have those records you did, Canticles and Drums and Buggles with Paul Smoker and Herb and those and Vinny.
Yeah.
And I love that stuff. And have you been working on something new as a band leader? Like, what's your story regarding band leading? The last,
Not too much as a band leader. I've mainly been focusing on sidemen projects, and when I was recording for Simp,
yeah,
Bob Roosh gave me a lot of leeway into doing some so. I did a solo
yeah,
recording, songs for Samuel, and he gave me a shot at doing a few, so I took it. And grabbed it while it was there.
yeah. But you liked it otherwise? Band leading? I mean, it's kind of a collective band anyway, since it's so much improvised and but still, like you being a band leader, do you like this aspect, or do you still do it nowadays, or?
It's fine. If you're talking about something that's completely improvised, I
Yeah,
guess it doesn't really matter that much, as if someone's leading a band that's doing the writing of the music and the arranging and and all of that. So,
yeah,
but it's fine. I mean, I was happy with the results,
yeah,
and I've been very fortunate to be able to play with some really, really great musicians.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I want to ask you about some of those stories. Definitely some amazing players there.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, did you have an aha moment that where you said like, shit, I want to play drums or jazz specifically when you were, I guess, a teenager? Like, how come you decided to go this path?
Well, I was about 7 or 8 years old at the
Oh,
time, and I was studying guitar. My brother's a guitarist,
oh, really?
and I
Okay.
was studying acoustic guitar, and I didn't really enjoy the fret buildup on my fret hand, the callus buildup. So I don't know. I guess at that age I was kind of dumb and fussy, and I was like, the hell with this. I don't want to deal with that. So I had a really hip aunt on my father's side, and she took me to see the great Sonny Rollins
Hmm.
at Carnegie Hall. This is about 1970, 1971.
Well,
And he had Tony Williams, Reo Kawasaki on guitar, and Hubert Laws and Ron Carter.
oh man. Okay.
And that's all it took for me to see Tony Williams in Carnegie Hall with his big yellow Gretsch set with his 24-inch bass drum and just going crazy, man. I mean, he was just, Sonny. He wanted to play calypsos, and he would look back and like, what's this guy playing? But I'd say it's Tony Williams.
Hmm.
He was the one that really, when I got home from that, I
Triggered.
was like, oh man, yeah. Forget
Well,
about the guitar.
did you then go? Who were then the? I mean, obviously, then I guess you started to listening to Tony, but who were the players that you checked out when you were beginning to study the music? I mean,
Oh, everyone. I was fortunate to have three older brothers. I'm the youngest of four. And my brother Mark would just bring in records
hmm,
and hand me records. So check this out. Check this Coltrane record out. Check Jimi Hendrix out. Check Roland Kirk out. Check Pat Martino out. And all these, Jim Hall and all these people. So I got kind of a heads up to that kind of music, and I got it in my ears.
hmm,
It was a good head start,
hmm. Yeah.
for later on.
Did you then study jazz? I mean,
You know, I studied with individual, I didn't go to school,
okay.
college for it. I went to individual great players and drummers and studied with them and got bits and pieces of information, you know,
Who were these guys? I mean, who did you have
well,
lessons with?
I took one lesson with Joe Morello,
Really? Oh, wow.
which
Amazing.
it was great. It was really great. You know, just to sit next to that guy, and we had two drum pads, and just to sit next to him and watch his hands and his mechanics and how he moved
Yeah.
was really, really something. Really something.
Mm.
You know, I took a few lessons with Barry Altschul.
Oh, man, really? Oh, I love
Yeah,
Barry, man. Yeah.
yeah, in the early 80s.
Wow.
And he was cool, you know. I remember him giving me a ditto and with some things, with some directions. And one of them says, make a sound, make another sound, you know.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And that, yeah, that I remember that. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. You know?
Interesting.
But Barry was cool, and
Yeah.
you know, I took a lesson with Kenny Washington
Wow.
on brushes, and that was really eye opening. You know,
He's the master of that. Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
something else, man. Yeah, his brush playing is extraordinary,
Amazing.
extraordinary. You know,
But you're from Philadelphia originally, right?
I was born in Philly,
Okay.
and my parents moved to Long Island when I was.
Oh,
Okay.
we're
I
back.
just got noticed we're being recorded. So, okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my parents moved to Long Island when I was 2 years old, and I basically grew up about 40 miles east of Manhattan.
Ah, okay. That's
Yeah.
how I want. And when did you then move to New York as a musician, as a professional
I
player?
moved to New York 1991.
91. Okay. So
Yeah.
fairly late. I mean, kind of
Yeah, when I was about 29, 30.
29. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to immerse myself in more challenging environment and find out how far I could take it or how good I was, you know.
How was that like for you when you moved to New York? I mean,
It was
because the
pretty
scene
intense.
was intense, like in the
It was
early
pretty
90s.
intense. It
Yeah.
was pretty intense. You know, I was going to a lot of the jam sessions. This place, Augie's, that
Mhm.
now it's Smoke. You know, it used to be a little corner bar. You know, the Blue Note had a jam session. Just going around town, sitting in and meeting different players and
Yeah.
musicians and playing with them. You know, and it was on one of those gigs that I met Dominic Duval in about 1992.
I wanted to ask you about his connection. Yeah. Your connection with him. Yeah. That's.
Yeah, I met him on a gig with Rick Delarada, who runs Jazz for Peace. Um, Excellent pianist, and I met Dominic on that gig in Queens, the Village Door, I think the name of it was. And I remember we played a gig, and Dominic turned around to Rick and goes, "Yeah, get this guy's good, get him." So that was my meeting with Duval, you know.
Yeah. Did you guys talk a lot? You know, I have you guys together on so many albums. Obviously, you know, Trio X and with Mark Whitecage.
Yeah.
And you seem so tight as a rhythm section. Like, how did you establish that through the years, like in your own view?
You know, Dominic pulled me into this trio project with Sarah Sion, another excellent pianist, in about 1990, end of 92, beginning of 93. And things just started to blossom from there. I think we got with Mark Whitecage shortly after that, in around 93, 94. And that's when we recorded that record for GM Records.
Yeah.
The
trio, yeah, Paper Trail or what? No, that's
no,
the
that
later.
was
That's the later. Yeah.
I think that was one of Mark's releases on acoustics.
Okay, that's fun.
Yeah. But getting to play with Mark was really something. You know, he was wow. He's really a great player.
But he's one of the quite underrated cats, I think.
I think so too.
On the horn, you know, it's like.
I think so too. There's a lot of underrated great players.
Oh man.
Yeah, more than not. I mean, some of the best players I've had the pleasure of playing with are underrated.
Yeah.
In my book. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of underrated, how did you connect with Paul Smoker? And I mean, I mentioned him before, and your experience with playing with Paul. I mean, he's one of the best out there.
Paul came to me through Vinny Golia.
Oh, okay.
And you know, when it came time to do my own date, which was Canticles, let's see, how did that go? Yeah, I called Paul up, and he was interested in doing it. I told Mark was involved, and he's the one that suggested Vinny.
Okay.
I think he and Bob actually suggested Vinny because Paul had worked with Vinny, you know, prior. So I think, yeah, that's how that came about.
Yeah, he was such a strong player, man.
Paul is another great one. Another great.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
How did those sessions take place, like with under Bob Rush's direction? I mean, because you've done so many, and they're all really good, you know. But what was the usual practice, the routine of recording?
Up at Bob's?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you get up there, you drive up there, and you unload your stuff, and you eat dinner. Basically, you set your stuff up pretty much the way it's going to be, and you eat dinner. And after dinner, you start playing, and basically whatever you don't finish up or he thinks should go on the record, you know, you finish up the next day when you get up. You know,
and that was it.
Yeah.
So many great sessions. It's such a shame, that it kind of stopped then.
Yeah, it was an interesting period.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, it's like that 10, 15 years, like, or how long it was. I don't know.
Yeah, about 15, I would
15,
say.
yeah.
Yeah.
So many great records.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun.
Oh man, yeah. You mentioned Dominic before, and I wanted to ask you about your connection. How did you hook up with Joe then? That trio X, which, you know, has been playing then for a really long time, right? And how did you hook up with Joe? I mean, like.
Well, Dominic and I were driving home from a session, and Bob suggested we call Joe.
Okay.
So I remember Dominic called him on the phone on the way home, and he's like, "Yeah, Joe, this is Dominic Duval. Yeah, you don't know me, but I got a drummer here." And you know, Dominic was kind of aggressive, you know, and he threw his weight around, you know, so he tended to anyway. So he says, "Yeah, you know," and Joe said, "Well, I don't have a band, so I don't know what you want from me, you know, really." So they said, "Okay, well, you know, we're here, you know, if you ever want to play and this and that." And then nothing was said about it for a while. And then Joe contacted Dominic later, and we ended up playing a concert dedicated to Coltrane. And then we ended up playing at the Vision Festival, the third Vision Festival in 1998.
Oh shit, I might have been on, no, yeah, I might have been on that one.
Yeah, were you there?
Yeah, I think so, actually. I might have been, because 98 I was in New York at that time, yeah.
Okay.
97 or 98. Shit, I don't remember exactly.
Well, after the concert, not a word was said about it in the press. Nobody said anything, and Joe was like, "Well, they kind of X'd us out, you know." And then Dominic was like, yeah, that's a good name for the band, Trio X,
Mm.
So the name stuck, and you know,
Yeah.
16, 17 years later.
Later, yeah, exactly. Are you still in touch with Joe? I mean, I know you did that record with Kirk Knufke, but like with Joe, do you still play or
Oh
sometimes?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I just went out to LA in April, and I played a duet concert with Joe out there.
Oh man, really?
Yeah, at Zebulon. They had moved
Yeah.
from Brooklyn. Yeah,
Oh yeah, that was in Brooklyn. They're on the West Coast now?
yeah, they're in LA.
Really? Wow,
Yeah,
that's
they
fantastic.
said the two brothers that were running it. They told me they couldn't. They had neighbor complaints,
Wow.
about the noise. So, but they found a nice place out there.
Yeah, that was a
It's
nice
nice.
place in Brooklyn, Zebulon. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I used to work there with Charles Gale and Hill Green quite a bit.
Yeah. Charles. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you played with all of these guys that are like slightly under the radar and shouldn't be, like, Charles and Paul and Mark
Yeah.
Whitecage and like how was Charles like?
Oh, Charles was great. He was great. He would just get the thing rolling, and
Yeah,
before you know it, the gig was over. He would just start playing.
yeah, it was just yeah.
But he had a very strong spirit, and he was a very religious guy. So his
Mm,
convictions were very strong, with
mm,
the music.
yeah.
And I one time he called me at the last minute. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing." He says, "Well, I got this solo gig at you know where was he? He was at Zorn's place,
Oh,
the
Stone.
Stone, the
Yeah,
Stone,
yeah,
and this was the one that was on the Lower East Side there. And he said, "I really don't want to play solo. Could you just come and accompany me?" And he says, "I'm playing piano," and I
oh
never heard
really?
him play piano. You know, so I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went there and he started playing, and started playing like really intense stride piano style, like Earl Hines or one of these
Oh,
guys.
interesting.
And it was pretty amazing. You
Oh,
know,
didn't know
I was
that. Wow.
wow. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, yeah.
He,
I know with these guys you went to Europe a lot, like, but when was the first time you went to Europe, by the way, as a musician?
the first time was it might have been Hans Tommen, the guitar player,
Yeah.
and Ursel Schlick.
Oh wow. Okay.
I'm trying to think if that was before Mark Whitecage.
So
It was
early
one of those
19.
two
Yeah.
in around 1994
Mm.
area. Yeah,
How was that like for you, Europe, and back
it
then?
was
Because it was
it was
different, right? It was.
it was great. But then again, any gig you get is a great thing. You
Yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah,
playing
yeah,
with good musicians.
yeah,
So I was just like, wow, yeah, this is great.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, did you play drum? I don't remember, or was it Nasheed? There was a gig of Cosmosomatics in Maribor, but I don't remember the year. And Sonny and Michael were there.
Right, Michael mentioned you were at that gig, right?
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But you played drums, right, on that one, or not?
yeah,
I think you did.
yeah. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, yeah. So I saw you then. Yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
hope so.
Yeah. How
But the
did you end?
Cosmosomatics was wow.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what was the story of that band? I mean, like, I know Michael was kind of the pushing that band a lot, and then William and Terrace Mateen later, and but Sonny, how did that work in
Yeah.
that band?
Well, what happened, as far as I was concerned, I met Michael in Midtown around 2000, early 2001.
Mm,
And I said, yeah, I definitely want to play with you, man. So we kept in touch, and he actually auditioned me.
Oh wow, really? Oh wow, okay.
Yes, for Sonny at Context Studios in Midtown Manhattan.
Mm.
And we were up there and we played, and Sonny came in. He walked around the room a couple times, and he goes, "You're hired." And then he split, and we didn't see him for a while. And then when things coalesced after that, we started in hardcore rehearsals up at Michael's place.
Mm.
And fortunately, Michael, lives on a top floor
Yep.
of a 5-story building, and we could play in there. And it was a very, very fortunate thing because we hit it hard, man.
Really?
We
Wow.
really, the Cosmosomatics was one of the best, well-rehearsed bands I've ever been in.
Mm.
Tight,
Yeah.
real tight. And it's a rare thing in the avant-garde to have a group that well-rehearsed and that tight. It's very rare.
Mm. That was with William on bass.
William was on the first record.
Yeah.
And then on the second record, we had the great Curtis Lundy.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yep.
And the third record was a trio,
Three.
right?
Yeah.
With no bass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you did that Magnitudes. Yeah, I think it was Magnitudes.
Yeah, Magnitudes.
Yeah.
Actually, Magnitudes is one of the few recordings still available from Soul Note Records.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing for people that want to look that one up,
Yeah. It's hard to get some of these records. It's like I know I bought some on the gig. Like I still buy CDs. Like I love opening the album and reading the liner notes. So I think I have like 2 or 3 by the Cosmosomatics so that I bought. But it's hard to get that music. Yeah, a lot of that music actually of the avant-garde or improvised scene. It's
it can get tricky.
Yeah.
Can get tricky. But the Cosmosomatics never really got the critical recognition that I've always felt it deserved.
Yeah.
It kind of slipped by most of the major critics, but the music is there.
Oh man, yeah.
It'll have to be dealt with, one way or another, So
yeah. Yeah, it's a burning group. I mean, it was a burning group. I remember the gig. It was like, whew, man. It blew me away.
It was serious. It was a very serious band. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Sonny's also one of those guys. Like when I listen to him, I mean, obviously there's like a little bit of Ornette and Coltrane and his own, but he has his own voice. It's like amazing.
Sure.
He was such a great player, man.
Oh man. Great.
And him and Michael, yeah.
Great. Yeah, those guys were just tight.
Yeah.
Really super tight.
Yeah. I love the 2 horns.
Yeah. Sonny was boy, I'll tell you, he knew more about music than anyone I ever knew.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
He did.
Wow.
He sure did. And he had that spiritual approach, that context that he put into the music, And it was just a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
It really was.
How did you approach these long tours? Like when you were on the road, you as a player, especially staying fresh and I remember like I had like 3 weeks was my longest tour, and like on gig 10 I was like sick of myself and trying psychologically how to deal with it. Well, how did you do that?
Well, that's the good thing and the advantage of playing with great players.
Yeah,
they keep you on your toes every night.
Yeah,
and that either you're playing up to par or you're not. And you want to play well,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Your spirit's involved, your ego to a certain extent is evolved. You have to rise up and play.
Yeah.
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 Not easy.
No, it's not easy, man. It's like it's heavy. it's a fight sometimes. I mean, with myself, I think that was always on long tours. I was
Yeah.
like, shit, man, I should get my shit together. Like, I don't know, dude. Stop repeating myself or whatever. Yeah, listen more. Or it's heavy.
Yeah. Well, listen. It helps when you're, especially from the drummer's perspective. You're back there, you're
You're the
playing, and
engine. Yeah.
you got a front line,
Yeah.
and if things are really popping up there, and it's really, really crackling. You got to respond to that.
Yeah.
And keep it on that level.
Yeah.
And even try to push it higher if you can. But at
Yeah.
least to keep it there.
That's a big responsibility.
You're
Yeah.
going to be in trouble if you can.
Yeah,
You don't
definitely.
do it.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
Yeah. We mentioned before drums and buggles, and I know you played with Paul Smoker, but like, what's your story with Herb? And I think it's one of the rare records where it's actually two trumpets and drums. I don't recall so many records like that, and it's a very unique one. And
Yeah, neither do I.
yeah, like, what's the story behind that record? And I mean, I know with Paul, like I said, you played, but with Herb, how did you?
Well, after I did the first record with Paul, I really wanted to do another one with him because he's,
Oh, man, it
he's,
was.
he's incredible. So I immediately thought of Herb, and I called Herb up and I said, "What do you think about doing a band with Paul?"
Mm,
And he said, "Oh yeah, yeah, I could do that. That'll work." And then I talked to Bob Roosh about it, and originally I was going to have a bass too,
mm,
but then I thought about it and I said, "Well, I think it'll be a little more exclusive if I just played a trio."
yeah.
So that's what I ended up doing, and I'm glad I did. I'm really glad I did.
Oh man, it's
You know,
a monster record.
those guys had a real nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Has the scene changed a lot in your view, since you started like in the early 90s and now, like especially for the, let's call it improvised or avant-garde music that you play, like what's your view on that?
I think it has. I think the quality and the bar in general has been lowered.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I don't hear the musical part of it. I hear a lot of great players
Yeah.
who are virtuosic instrumentalists on every instrument. There's plenty of great instrumentalists, but the music itself is not what it was.
Mm.
It's but that's what my ears tell me. Someone else might feel differently.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But I just think that the bar has been lowered some.
Mm. Yeah.
What gets over, what critics promote, what they get behind, it's like
Different story. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love music, and like the great Duke Ellington said, there's only two kinds of music, good and bad.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's what I go with.
No, it's true. Yeah. Like we mentioned so many guys you played with who were pushing the boundaries, from Paul Smoker to Charles Gale and Cosmosomatics and
Yeah.
Mark Whitegate, all these incredible players who,
Mark, Joe.
yeah, exactly, Joe, and
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Jay, what's during the schedule for you for the upcoming months? I mean, do you have some tours, gigs, recordings coming up, or also plans for coming to Europe? Or
Yeah, I have a recording coming up with Michael Bizio.
really? Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, it's a group with English horn, viola, bass, and percussion.
Wow.
And we played a gig up in Kingston last week, and it turned out well, And so yeah, it should be very nice.
Mm. Who's on the French horn and the viola?
English horn.
Oh, English horn. Sorry. Yeah.
English horn. Marianne Osiel, I believe her
don't know.
last name. and Melanie Dyer
Ah, okay.
is playing viola.
Hmm.
She's been working some with William Parker's ensembles.
Oh yeah, okay. Interesting lineup. Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. So it should be interesting, and I'm just playing snare drum and cymbals and
Oh wow. Okay.
on this one. Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah. So it should be interesting.
Yeah. But what about Europe? Do you have any tours coming up? Like plans?
No, nothing in Europe planned. From people I've talked to, Joe McPhee has been telling me Europe has been increasingly more difficult.
Yeah, it's true. After COVID, especially. Yeah.
Due to the war up north there and logistics and travel, plane flights and this and that, from what I gather, it's harder and harder to make decent money too.
Yeah.
Unless you have a festival or two.
Yeah.
Included in the tour, the club scene. I mean, it's not a lot of money there.
Yeah. Yeah, especially after COVID, it's gone also in Europe, like many places, closed or just don't hire international musicians anymore, just locals. And I mean, that's my experience. Yeah. I used to play a lot in Germany, and now like half of the clubs are just like, okay, now we just do German musicians because of taxes and everything. And so it's like, man, yeah, it's getting harder and harder. Yeah.
Yeah, it ain't easy out there.
Yeah. But we do it. We do it for the music also. Yeah, we love it.
It's about the music. It's about the music. It isn't about us.
Yeah, it's a nice
We
thing.
are facilitators for the music.
Yeah.
And the more we could get out of our own way, the better.
Yeah, exactly. That's a nice way to finish, by the way. So I'll leave us there, actually.
Okay.
That's a beautiful one. But man, thanks so much, Jay, for sharing some of these thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Samo. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.